Welcome everyone to part 3 of our 4-part series for IT service providers, and a series in which we describe how to protect a business from a cybersecurity attack. Now, we're going to tell you about the Authonet Zero Trust Network Access products, specifically how to protect a business against password theft and phishing, and also to monitor for any attempted intrusion. Now, the previous 2 parts in this series described how to configure the Authonet Zero Trust Gateway. And in this part, we're going to describe how the user will interface and get access to the network. First, let's just recap installing the Authonet product. We have 2 products, 300 megabits per second throughput and 1 gigabit per second throughput. Both products function identically. The only difference is the performance of the product. And the products are installed in the network so that all devices have to connect to the Authonet gateway, including remote connections from remote users, which are connected to a VPN server for security. And the VPN server is then connected to the Authonet gateway. We also connect devices, IoT devices, Internet of Things, which might be production control equipment, to the gateway, because we're going to ensure that this type of equipment is also authorized. And finally, we have a dedicated port for the administrator. To recap, the Authonet A300 has 5 Ethernet ports. 1 port, we call the WAN port, connects to the business network, and the LAN 4 port is dedicated for the administrator. All devices connect to the LAN 1, LAN 2, and LAN 3 ports. The Authonet A1000 is similar. In this case, it has 6 Ethernet ports. The WAN connects to the business network. The dedicated administrator port connects to LAN 4, and then we have LANs 1, 2, 3, and 5, which connect to our devices. What does the user see of the new security that is imposed on the network? Well, first of all, the user requires credentials to access. Now, in the previous part, we described how to add devices, how to add users, and how to create credentials for the users. And so we provide the user with the introductory sheet, like the one shown. It's got the user's name, it's got the login page that is required to access the login, and then the username and the password that's been assigned. And finally, we have a QR code for 2-factor authentication, and that's very important. Always use 2-factor authentication to authenticate users onto the network. And so the information that the user needs is here, and we have to safeguard this information. We want the user to make a note of the username and the user password, but we don't want the user to remove this piece of paper, because that might be a breach of security, especially if the user scans the paper and stores it on a computer. And so we want the user to, under supervision, set up the one-time password using the QR code. And that requires the user to install an app on the mobile phone. Some apps are shown there. In this example, we'll talk about an app called Free OTP, which is widely used and available from both the Android store and the iPhone store. Now, once we've installed the app on the phone, we have to initialize it with the QR code. The QR code is an encryption key which has been generated specifically for that user. And so the app is going to capture that key, and that is going to be used to initialize the generation of one-time passwords or numeric codes. And the procedure is very simple. The app is very easy to use. The phone camera takes a photo of the QR code and then reads the data and initializes the app. Now, we have already added devices and users. We've created the credentials for the users. And so when a user connects to the network, then the login page is shown. If the login page doesn't happen to be displayed in the browser, open a new tab and type in newlogin.net. And the login page requests the username and the password. Now, we hope that you've configured the two-factor authentication, in which case we're going to get a code from the phone using the free OTP or whatever OTP app we have installed there. And that's, in the case of free OTP, a 6-digit numeric code. We then enter that 6-digit numeric code in the OTP key box in the login page. Now, it's very important to understand how to protect the business network against password theft and phishing attacks. Remember that in terms of successful attacks, around 10% of successful attacks are made using password theft. Around 65% of successful attacks are made using phishing. The remaining 25% of successful attacks are made directly from the internet in a case where the business does not have a firewall to protect the network. Now, the criminal may try to steal a password through social engineering, and this is a process which in many cases is successful. For example, the criminal might decide to look at employee profiles on a website like LinkedIn, and then pretend to be one of those employees when calling in and requesting a replacement password. And unfortunately, in many cases, that replacement password is given to the criminal. And two-factor authentication will stop that. The criminal may have a password, but without the code from the phone, which is in the possession of the member of staff, the criminal is not going to get access to the network. Obviously, we're going to try and prevent criminals getting passwords, instructing staff to not to share passwords, but unfortunately, criminals have very persistent methods in order to get what they want. The Trojan virus attack requires the criminal to send out a series of phishing messages, each one with a link that is clicked. The messages, of course, are fake. They pretend to be some business or some entity that the member of staff knows. And so once the link is clicked, then the browser communicates with the website or the server of the criminal, and then installs the Trojan virus, which gives the criminal remote access to that computer. Now, we can prevent password theft by implementing two-factor authentication, and we've already described that process. So all businesses should have two-factor authentication. It's simple to install, it doesn't cost a lot, and although big businesses have this, many smaller businesses don't install two-factor authentication. Maybe because they think it's complicated or it costs a lot of money. That's not the case, especially with Authonet products. You can implement two-factor authentication for a very low cost. There are some entities that require two-factor authentication. For example, the HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, requires two-factor authentication to access patient records called protected health information. And we have a couple of links there where the information can be obtained about the HIPAA security rule. There are also standards like the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the Cybersecurity Framework, which also recommends the use of multi-factor authentication. There are other standards like PCI DSS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, that also requests two-factor authentication to access card information. So when we implement two-factor authentication, then the user has to provide the username and password to log into the network, and then gets the OTP key, the one-time password key from the phone, and enters that to access the network. And this applies to all staff. And each time a member of staff connects to the network, the credentials have to be entered once again. The OTP key changes every minute. And so it's important that each time that the member of staff connects to the network, the credentials prove that that is the member of staff who owns the access. Now, protection against phishing is made very easily using the Authonet cybersecurity products, and many large businesses have implemented this. Banks do this, businesses like Google and Amazon do this for their staff, and it requires locking down the network in a way that its access to the internet is restricted to those websites that the member of staff needs to do the tasks. And access to all of the websites is blocked. And what this means is that if a member of staff receives a phishing message and clicks on the link, then the browser cannot communicate with the server or the computer that is hosted by the criminal. And so the Trojan virus cannot be installed. In some businesses, a user can have two computers, one computer which has full access to the internet but no access to the local network, and another computer which has access to the local network but very limited access to the internet. And it's possible to transfer information between the two computers using a cloud storage which checks for viruses. And so that's a very secure way to manage a business, to ensure that the business is not going to get hacked by criminals. And so in review, we install the Zero Trust Network Access Gateway. All devices and users connect through that gateway. Obviously, we need to provide training for staff so that they understand the procedure and the importance of having security to access the network. And so, as well as upgrading the network with the Zero Trust, we also have other issues that we need to deal with. For example, updating security patches for operating system software and also application software and device firmware. We want to ensure that we have antivirus installed on all computers, and we have automatic updating of those files. If possible, we would like to move applications to cloud applications, and clouds are much more secure. So cybersecurity is an ongoing process, not a one-time upgrade. And so we have to continue upgrading our network. Here's an example of the Authonet configuration to block a phishing attack. We create access rules for the websites that we want to access. And then on the device list, we can add the rules, and we block all access unless allowed. And the two rules that we show there, Amazon and Microsoft, allow access to those two websites. We can allow access only from specific devices by applying those rules to devices in our list. So only certain devices have access to those particular websites. All other devices are locked from the internet. Let's look now at intrusion monitoring. We have a couple of reports where we identify possible attempted intrusions. One is the repeated failed authentication attempts, where a password is being entered, but the OTP code is not correct. And so the authentication fails. And we have a limit to those authentications, and we can send out an alert if that limit is reached. We also have unknown devices connected to the network. And so if an unknown device is detected, then we want to find out what that device is and either remove it from the network or add it to the authorized device list. When we saw that creating the rules gave us an option of logging an attempted breach of that rule, if that log has been selected, then we have a list of attempted rule breaches, which we can consult and identify possibly a device, a computer that's attempting to access parts of the network which are blocked to that device. So we have reports where we can look at new devices and blocked devices. The new devices are a list of all devices connected to the network, and blocked devices are those which for any reason have been blocked because of some event that occurred. And we have a history of new devices and blocked devices. We also have a report showing blocked logins and failed logins. So if a password is used repeatedly without the correct one-time password, or if a password is incorrect, then after a number of tries, which are specified in the settings, the default is 3. So after 3 tries, the access is blocked. And so that login goes into the failed list, and this can generate an alert for the supervisor. We have one other item that we haven't covered yet, which is resetting the gateway to the factory default settings. This might be the case if we're going to maybe change the configuration, move the gateway to a different location. And so we'd want to reset it to defaults. Obviously, before resetting, do make a backup of the settings in case they need to be restored at some future date. And the A300 has a reset button, which is held in for 10 seconds after power up, and that will clear the device to the factory settings. The A1000 is a little bit different. It requires a computer to be connected to one of the ports at a specific IP address, and then there's a procedure to follow to reset that to defaults. If any people watching this need support, we have a customer support page. We ask to provide the product serial number when requesting support, plus other information that's shown on the page there, the model number, the firmware version, your name, and your email address. Explain the problem. And note that the online support is available during the week, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. GMT. That's Greenwich Mean Time. And we try to respond within 1 business day to a request. We have a series of training videos available on YouTube and also linked from our website. And there are some short introductory videos and then some longer videos, 30 to 45 minutes. And so these videos are for the business owners, business managers, and also for IT service providers. For further information about Authonet products, please download the manual. The link is shown at the top of the page. You can see on our website product data sheets, links to the videos, and the link to the support page. Finally, if you have any questions about this presentation, please contact us. Our email address is shown on the screen, info@authonet.com. You can also contact us via the support page. And please follow us on our social media channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, thank you very much for watching. Please look out for part 4 in this 4-part series. And if you haven't already seen the earlier parts 1 and 2 are available on our YouTube channel. See you next time.